everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. With me today is Christine Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Angela Sinclair, and of course my husband Todd Preston. Hey everyone.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Hey everybody.
So if you guys notice, we're missing someone in that group was supposed to be here, and that's Regina Lindsay. She had to travel today. Quite a long trip. She's not feeling the best, so she is going to sit out on tonight's episode. So we'll miss you, girl. Hope you feel better soon. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Rose Larner episode from season 2. And along with that, we're going to tie in revenge. If everyone remembers, Rose was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, dismembered and burned, and I think it was all about revenge on how she embarrassed him. What in the heck is revenge? So I found an article in India's first mental health magazine called Psychologues, and this article is titled The Psychology Behind Revenge, and this was posted on September 22nd, 2023. Revenge is the urge to exact retribution for an injustice or wrong committed by another person by inflicting hurt or harm on them. It is a strong and widespread human feeling and behavior that has been studied for ages in psychology, literature, and cinematography. Seeking revenge against someone who has mistreated us can take many different forms, ranging from quiet acts of punishment to violent acts of violence. Murderers frequently defend killing as necessary revenge, along with other horrific crimes that are allegedly given greater weight by their prior provocation. Provocation. Oh God, guys, what is it? Provocation.
Provocation.
Thank you. Provocation. According to behavioral psychologists, inflicting pain on an offender alone does not satisfy someone's desire for retribution. Rather, revenge can extend the misery of the first offense. They have also discovered that revenge frequently merely leads to a circle of retaliation rather than bringing about justice, in part because one person's moral balance rarely coincides with another. Here's some motivations behind revenge. Feeling of injustice. And it is one of the primary motivators for seeking revenge. When individuals perceive an injustice, they may feel a strong need to restore balance and punish the wrongdoer. Feeling emotionally hurt or betrayed. So emotions such as anger, betrayal, and humiliation play a significant role in fueling revenge. And these emotions are overwhelming, leading to individuals to seek revenge. So what is the emotional process behind it, behind revenge? It's planning. So revenge will begin with a meticulous planning phase during which the individual obsesses over the wrong they have suffered. Expectation. As the plan takes shape, individuals may experience a temporary sense of empowerment and satisfaction. And then we have execution. The act of revenge is a highly emotional roller coaster experience. It provides a short-lived sense of relief and vindication. So what are the long-term effects of revenge? Individuals think that gaining retaliation will make them feel better, and that taking revenge is a way to relieve their emotions. Talking about it is frequently portrayed in movies as a solution to a right and wrong. However, getting even actually has the opposite impact. Even if the first few seconds seem satisfying in the brain, psychological researchers have discovered that seeking revenge actually makes the original misconduct seem worse for longer. Often getting even only results in a vicious cycle of revenge. Quote, "A man who seeks revenge keeps his own wounds green, which would otherwise heal." And that is a quote by Francis Bacon. What are the consequences of revenge? There's a short-term satisfaction, and it can provide a temporary sense of high satisfaction and relief because it feels like justice has been served. Conflict escalation. When one person seeks revenge, it often prompts the wrongdoer to retaliate in return, which escalates conflicts. This leads to creating a cycle of revenge that can spiral out of control. Long-term effects, it can perpetrate negative emotions and hinder emotional healing. And social consequences, seeking revenge can damage one's social relationships, leading to increased isolation and loneliness. So there are some healthy uses of revenge. Individuals' emotional scars are aggravated and reopened by seeking revenge. While it may be tempting to punish a wrong, the person actually winds up punishing themselves since they are unable to recover. There are some healthy methods to handle these emotions that will aid in one's recovery and provide the person's brain with the same benefits without the drawbacks. Forgiveness, and that is a powerful alternative. It involves letting go of your anger and choosing not to seek revenge. Resolution of conflict, which is engaging in formative dialogue and conflict resolution, can be a more effective way to address grievances than seeking revenge. Communication and negotiation can help resolve complex issues. Legal help in cases of severe injustice can give you a structured means of addressing the issue. The legal system is designed to prorate out applicable discipline and compensation. The psychology behind revenge is multifaceted, involving provocations embedded in justice, hurt, and rage. The emotional process of seeking retaliation can be consuming and violent, leading to short-term satisfaction, but also possible long-term consequences. Understanding the complications of revenge can help individuals make further informed opinions about how to address their grievances. So I thought that was a pretty decent article.
That was really good. And I liked how it talked about the scientific studies that have been done on this, because I love when science imitates universal rules and whatnot. Like, karma, dude, reap what you sow. That negative emotion feedback loop, once you get caught in it, that's what it is. So when you go to the negative, you're going to get the negative. But if you choose the positive, you'll get more positive, and you'll learn from it, and you'll grow. This is also, I'm saying, revenge in and of itself. The whole topic of revenge, it brings us back to the whole being aware, self-aware of your own actions, and what you do is always what's important. Because anything anyone does to you, that's not to you. That's done for you to learn. That is their stuff. That is their action. Your reaction is what you can give it, and it's going to be positive or negative. Revenge is always going to be the negative. Revenge is always going to be the no-go, because what you give attention to is what you're going to get, and it doesn't make anything better. Two wrongs never make a right. All of the cliche colloquial.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and guess what? Confucius says, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves.
Yeah, see? That's it.
I like it.
It's all the same thing, and it blows my mind a little bit. Like, if you step out of it a little bit, all of those things that we've always heard our whole lives, but yet society always kind of drove us to the negative. You know, like constructing Karens, when all we really had to do was deconstruct other people's norms on our normal. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And it's like that gut punch. It's that knee-jerk reaction to it, right? Oh, they wronged me. I got to get them back. And it is true. It's very much a vicious cycle, and how much energy that takes from you.
Yeah. Negative energy is definitely the harder route, for sure.
Yeah.
I used to, it used to lull me to sleep, if I'm being honest. My lots of revenge in my preteen, teenage girl mind on all the girls that used to harass me. I used to believe, I would think, oh, it'd be great if I could have like just invisible powers, and then I could trip them, and, you know, they would fall in front of everybody, and everybody would make fun of them, and you know, so I don't know. I used to think about revenge all the time, and it motivated me. So you know what I did? You know what I did as a junior? I beat her out as the senior in the lead for the musical, for the High School Musical. So I turned my rage against her. for being a bully to me for no reason. And as I thought in my head how wonderful it would be to humiliate her, I then essentially
Okay, but the point
took her lead. It was her lead to have, and I took it.
Okay, well, the conversation isn't about how much time you wasted thinking about crap to yourself. The conversation is about, but did you do it?
I did not do it.
Exactly. So you chose not to react negatively. You just decided to be a bitter Betty in your head.
But ultimately, I won in the end, so it was exciting.
Actually, petty Betty, not bitter Betty.
I was a petty Betty. I mean, looking back now, obviously, as an adult, silly stuff. You know, why do we even argue with the people that we argue with then? But yeah. In my kid mind, I felt like, you know, that was like the ultimate revenge. I'm just so badass. I'll steal the lead in the High School Musical and show you, you dumb bitch.
Take that. You know, when I think about revenge and I think about what happened to Rose dated Kehoe, and he was a local rap star in Lansing. So, you know, he was kind of a big name around that time. They broke up, right? He moved in. Her mother kicked him out of the house because a huge wad of money and a gun. So she's like, you got to go. And he broke up with Rose immediately, which crushed her because she was completely in love with this guy. And then she started stalking him, calling him, paging him, right? Because pagers were a big thing back then in the 80s. And followed him to a party at Michigan State University and just ripped this guy verbally to shreds in front of the entire party. And then when she left, she got in her vehicle and she smashed the shit out of his truck with her van. And so she completely humiliated him and crushed him. So, you're right. So what's he do from there? He finally agrees to meet with her, but hey, you got to have sex with me and Billy. And of course she was willing to do it, anything to be with Kehoe again. And all the while he was plotting and planning his revenge on what he was going to do to this girl. So if we go back to what happened in the story, they had sex a couple of times, and then Kehoe choked her with a cord right in front of Billy, her longtime friend since they were in elementary school. And then he slit her throat in the shower, dismembered her, and burnt her in the fireplace in his grandparents' home. And then both him and Billy took what was left of her and her torso up north to Billy's parents' cabin, where they continued to burn her body to basically just ashes. And that is one hell of a dish of revenge.
Can I just say, what is up with the name Kehoe? Andrew Kehoe, now this dude.
I know, it's really it's crazy in my brain because as soon as I say Kehoe, I'm always thinking of our bath bomber.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe it's something with the name.
I think people that are named Kehoe that live in Michigan should check their family trees.
Agreed. So what do you think about this episode with Rose Larner, Angela?
I was just kind of flabbergasted that this happened, and you know, that was supposed to be her friend, and he went along with it. Like, it's hard to wrap my head around all of that when you're supposed to be somebody's friend and you're letting this person kill them brutally.
We did talk about that, right, Trace? During the podcast originally, we were like, well, what was the deal with, how did her best friend go along with that?
We were both kind of blown away because this was her best friend. I really don't think he knew what was going to happen. I think he was probably in shock. And we also have to remember that these guys were doing a bunch of drugs. I think they had coke. I think they were drinking. I think they were also smoking, pot. So, like I'm trying to put myself in that headspace where they were all in the shower because Kehoe kept wanting to push for Rose to have sex with both of them. And I don't know what that was about either. I just can't figure out what the push on sex with both of them was about.
Maybe it was a control thing for him over her best friend.
I'm just trying to put myself there like, okay, shower's done, and then this just, Kehoe comes up behind Rose, strangles her. I mean, we can always say what we would do. I don't know. What would you do? You have the keys, but you're completely messed up on drugs. Would you just like haul ass and get out of there? With the shock of all of it, being super high on drugs, because my brain thinks, okay, while he's in there dismembering her, and I can hear him because he's got the hatchet, whack, whack, get in the car and take off because it was his car. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess you also have to kind of take into consideration that John Kehoe was obviously, I mean, we're assuming a local thug, drug dealer-ish type, because that's why he got kicked out of the mother's house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he was intimidating to Billy. Maybe he was just a super intimidating guy. And Billy was like, oh my God, what are you doing? But at the same time, like, I know you'll kill me if I leave. I'm after me next. I mean, maybe he was in fear for his own life, even if it wasn't explicit to him at the time, because we really don't know. We're only going off of what the evidence ended up telling us. We don't have any firsthand account from either one of these guys, do we?
Because he kept saying, oh, I don't know where she was. I didn't have anything to do with it. But then, like, he was feeling the heat because the cops kept coming around because they're like, we know you had something to do with it, or we know you know more than what you're saying. So he's the one who gave the accounts of what happened because he walked into the police station, told them what happened, then he testified to it. That does come from him. And then John Ortiz Kehoe, he just, still to this day is saying he's innocent. He didn't do it. It was Billy. It wasn't me. But there's no motive for Billy.
His motive could have been the fact that he was tired of being in the friend zone.
Could have been.
I mean, there are guys that get obsessed with that one girl and have that hope that they'll one day love them. And then here's an opportunity to get to be with her because she's on the Kehoe guy. And Kehoe's like, yeah, join in with us or whatever. I mean, that's the thing. And perhaps in his mind, maybe he thought somehow magically she would forget about him and fall in love with him instead, and that didn't happen.
Ooh, I like it. A plot twist, an alternative. I love those. Yeah, those are wild.
So there you go. Maybe Kehoe is telling the truth. Maybe he didn't do it. But maybe, I'm sure he helped give her the body.
Yeah, I doubt he had nothing to do with it, but it actually pans out better if he really didn't. And maybe Billy was just a psychotic genius. And he felt the heat. And he thought that the cops thought that he did it all by himself. And then he was like, let me cop to a story where John Kehoe is the problem, but I'm just the idiot sucker that went along. Maybe Billy was a mastermind and said he'd get rid of the local drug dealer and his best friend that he can't have. Nobody else will either. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good theory.
It is.
Could have been because, right, he's always living in the shadow of his friend, John Kehoe. He's the local rap star. He's got my girl. I like the flip side.
It could have been. I mean, it's plausible at least.
But you know what? Here's the thing. I don't think that John took the witness stand either in this trial. I know Billy did. And I remember watching, there was a video on YouTube. I mean, he just seemed all kinds of full of himself. And when he was found guilty, he just had like this little annoying smirk on his face, like he was kind of laughing it off. Could be his tough guy persona that he's trying to keep up. And he kept turning around and kind of looking at people in the audience in the court. Now, I don't know if he was looking at his parents or her parents or who it was, but I just remember feeling absolutely angry watching his face. I don't think it was this guy's first time killing someone, because how do you come up with, okay, I'm going to drag this girl in the shower, bleed her out in the shower so everything goes down the drain?
Yes.
Definitely not a crime of passion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, dismemberment to victims usually happens. The main reason for it is to dispose of the body. to get rid of the evidence and make it harder for the victim to be identified. And these guys might have been out of their mind on drugs, but they had the forethought, as crazy as it is, to get rid of the evidence. That tells me they weren't that messed up.
And also there was planning on Kehoe's part because he like had him pull into Meyer so he could run in and buy the things he needed for the night's festivities, right? And if they're used to partying and doing drugs all the time, maybe they were able to stay focused. Well, he certainly stayed focused. And his brother knew something was up because when they came back, he's like, "What'd you do with her?"
Well, I don't know. I think we came up with a really great ending to the movie of all this, though, because that's the twist. it was actually Billy, and he plans all of it down to the wire.
Maybe he was working Kehoe.
So the whole movie goes just the way we have the podcast. And we're like, can't believe Billy would do that to his best friend. Like, they were best friends. And then the plot twist. Kehoe was never involved. Kehoe was just the dumb hoodlum in the neighborhood that had his girl and all that, and, you know, was getting famous with the rap and all these things that he was jealous about. But he was also pining for his best friend all these years. And at the end of the movie, bam, you find out what really happened. But we were thinking what we're being told. I think that's a great movie ending. I don't know. Somebody write it up.
I think it is a good movie ending. And to top it all off, the cherry on top is Billy was only put in jail for a year.
Yeah. And that's crazy. So I have a friend, and they know all the people that are involved in this story. And that was one thing that he said. Only one person really got punished for this crime. They're both guilty. They're both guilty as shit.
Yeah, most probably they are both guilty. But I don't know if a year, either one of them should have got a year. I mean, a girl died here.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, when I was younger and people would get arrested in my neighborhood for larceny or, I don't know, drug dealing or having drugs on them, whatever they would get arrested for, it always seemed like they went away for a long time. You know what I mean? And they were like petty criminals in the neighborhood. This is murder. A year for murder? But if you do petty larceny, like hold up a deli where you really only got about $25 worth of stuff, but because you held them up, that's larceny, and you go away to jail for that. It's a non-violent crime. I know, yeah, the threat of violence was there, but nothing would have happened, and they go away for years. And then you're telling me that this kid killed a girl, or at least witnessed a murder without doing anything the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Bare minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bare minimum. He's witnessing a murder and not doing anything about it, which is just as egregious. And then he does help to clean up the mess, which is, again, egregious. And he only gets a year? That's bananas.
Right. And I mean, if you just talk about the abuse of a corpse, right? He didn't strangle her. He didn't cut her into pieces, but he was definitely abusing a corpse because, right, Kehoe put her in the fireplace downstairs, burned her for a long time. Then the two of them took what was left in the fireplace, then took the torso from the shower and transported it, and then created another fire where they burn her for 10 hours. That is abuse of a corpse, and I would imagine that should land you at least 10 years in prison. Now I got to look up that law. Billy and his family know somebody? I mean, because that is one hell of a deal. That is one hell of a deal. And if we think about Catherine Wood and Gwendolyn Graham, right? So the story was Catherine Wood turned on Gwen. It was that Gwen was the one who was always doing it. So if Catherine Wood never even touched those patients, she did a long time in prison. A long time. What, 20, 30 years she did?
I think it was 23 years.
Yeah. She never even touched a body. So it makes absolutely zero sense to me. Maybe let's add this into the movie that we're making about Billy.
Yep.
They know somebody.
They wanted it. They wanted to solve this case so bad that they were willing to let the little fish go to get the bigger fish. It happens quite often. I think the 1 year though, that's a little lenient,
It's not even a slap on the wrist.
right?
I think Michael Vick got more time in prison for killing dogs than this guy got for killing a girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going with they know somebody.
No, but seriously, women dying by the hands of a man
Doesn't matter.
hardly gets prosecuted nearly anywhere close to what all other crimes are. Like, look at these two ladies. They got convicted of murder. They both went to jail for 30-some-odd years, right, Trace? I mean, it was crazy, right? They went away for a long time.
Yeah, well, Gwendolyn is doing life. She's a lifer. She got hit with all of it. So she's never getting out.
Convicted 30 years?
Catherine Wood got 20, 30 years, something like that.
Yeah.
She's out.
Yeah.
She's right. She's living in South Carolina. But she still had a substantial amount of time in prison. So the 1 year just doesn't, that's a huge injustice. And you know what? Like it or not, dude, you deserve to be in jail for quite some time for that.
Agreed.
Yep. What about Revenge of the Nerds? That was a happy ending.
No, not really. It was only a happy ending because they all decided to respect each other's differences and get along.
But then in 2 and 3, they still weren't respecting the nerds. It took them 3 times.
Well, first of all, that's a
Three
movie. It's a movie. But all 3 times, the movie ends up with everybody being buddies.
Hey, look, I'm just trying to provide some comic relief. Okay? Don't bust my balls. Don't peg me.
There will always be a pegging.
Oh,
Oh, my Lanta.
I've got the Revenge of the Nerds song stuck in my head now with the Poindexter.
Oh, yeah? What you got?
Oh, it's the music. It's the
Give us the music, hon.
well.
No, with your mouth.
I can't do it with my mouth.
I hear the synthesizer in my head.
Yeah, it's a synthesizer. How am I going to do that?
Come on.
This is the night that God got older.
That was really good.
Clap your hands, everybody, and everybody clap your hands.
Oh, yeah.
Lambda, 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 and omega moo.
Woo!
Oh, Lord.
Oh, my goodness.
In all honesty, revenge is negative. So if you act negative, you will get negative back tenfold. Karma rules apply. Revenge is never the way to go. However, this is also a good example of what happens with revenge. Because quite honestly, she was the first one that got revenge on him by all of her dramatic antics post-breakup. You know, which a lot of people are guilty of that, and I can't really say myself, but I've been, my friends of mine have, you know, gone off the rails when a guy breaks up with them and, you know, do stupid stuff to their car or whatever. It's a very teenage, angsty emotion. But that's the thing is you have to evolve. You have to grow from that. You have to wake up and become self-aware that your actions are what's important and you need to choose wisely. Not to be so negative. Don't be negative. Don't go negative because look where you end up.
Yeah.
Dead or in jail.
Right. Well, you know, also thinking about, because she was a little firecracker, this Rose. Like, she didn't take shit from anyone. And, you know, to think about, like, he really did her an injustice because why did this guy need a place to stay? You're a local rap star. You're selling drugs. You have all this money. Why didn't he have a place to live? She asked her mom, hey, can he live with us? Yes. And then the mom kicks him out. And then he's like, well, deuces on you. And then he's dating other girls. So she's like, you're not going to do me like that.
He was probably using her. That's probably what he was doing, was just using her, and was just like, oh, I just need a place to stay for however long. And when it went sour, he didn't really seem to care. He was probably just using her.
He was a gangster rapper, or so he thought.
Right. Yep.
So he was trying to live that street life. He was just couch surfing, really, is all he was doing. Because when you choose that kind of life, that kind of lifestyle, and try and be a thug and be no good to nobody, nobody wants you around. So anybody that can afford a roof, albeit parents in this case, he was going to try to use them too. So he was using the girl to get the roof over his head. And when that was done, he was done with her. So she was actually the first one to take revenge on him. Because he used her, but she should have known better. I mean, that is what he was. It's not like he was false advertising, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, but she was, in her defense, I think she was really in love with this guy.
And how old was she?
I want to say she was 18.
So she's very young, very impressionable. It happens to a lot of girls.
Well, and to be fair, it happens to a lot of adult women as well.
It happens to a lot of men.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where self-awareness comes into play. And when the older you get, the more accountable you should be for your own actions and your own growth.
If you learn from them.
That's where the self-awareness comes in.
Yeah.
Looking around and figure out what you should be learning. Because if you feel like something's happening to you, you need to learn that it's not happening to you. Nothing happens to you. It happens for you to learn what not to do the next time. It doesn't happen to you so you can get revenge and just keep the negative feedback loop happening. That's why I think I said this when we had the original podcast. That's why it's good for us to talk about these stories. And that's why I'm on board. Because, I'd rather not know about all this horrific stuff and live in a bubble of my little bubble where everybody's nice to each other. You know what I mean? I'd rather not know. But at the same time, it's good to know, and it's good to learn, and it's good to talk about it so people have prime examples of that's what happens when you fuck around and find out.
Agreed.
Even if you feel justified. If you're doing negative shit, there is no justification. The justice will come back on you tenfold. And all revenge cases, the justice in revenge is always going to be revenge. 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. You're absolutely right, Christine. And it's hard to take that high road because you're hurt, right? That goes to that innate knee jerk, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show. Well, I'll show you, but it's never good because just like that article I was reading, then I'm going to do something, then you're going to do something to get me back, and then I step it up more, and then you step it up more, and then before you know it, someone's dead.
That's how a lot of family feuds were started, and how long did they last? Some of them lasted for generations. It's all about revenge, getting the one up on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, unnecessary. Having the last word. It's all about learning who you are and how you feel about something. And if something makes you sad or mad, you got to figure out why. Because inevitably, and I know this really sucks, especially when we're talking about cases of murder. Like people are like, oh, is there really anything she could have done to cause her own murder? And everybody wants to always feel bad for the victim all the time. And yes, I always feel bad for the victim. Anything done wrong should be righted. I of course, but at the same time, the fact remains is that there were things that she chose to do that put her in that situation.
Yes.
Like even in the horrible ones, I think I said this on other podcasts, when it's completely egregious and it's against a child and all of this. Even in those cases, when you go all the way back to it, there's something to learn not to do. Like, if you're a teenager, you do not get in the car with a stranger to nowhere, because we know of very many stories of, if I get in this car, this man might kill me. So don't get in the car. So we all learn not to get in the car. And the more we talk about all of the very many different faceted ways we can get in trouble, the more we all collectively learn, okay, don't do that thing, and we won't have all this negative shit follow us.
Yeah, sit with it for a minute. Don't poke the bear.
Yeah.
Right. All these YouTubers and TikTokers that say, hey, have you seen this crazy person? And they literally tell them where they're from and how to find them. And and then those persons get fired. They get fired from their job because this thing goes viral. You know, and that's the thing is like, it sucks because it could be a fragment of time for that person. It could have been one really bad day, you know, maybe that isn't their normal behavior, but they had just had enough and maybe they decided to slip up and say the quiet parts out loud. You know, I don't know, but your life is over at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of giddy about that, to be quite honest. I feel like that's been missing a little bit in society. Back in our days, you know, my mom used to say, Nina, your mouth is going to get you in some trouble. One of these days, you're going to pop your mouth off to the wrong person, and they're going to turn around and stab you. You know? So I want to keep my mouth shut. I don't want to get stabbed. You know what I'm saying? People feel like for some time now, we've had these keyboard warrior type people that just go crazy. And now we're seeing it in public and people are recording it. And now we have a platform to call this behavior out so that we don't continue allowing this to be even happening.
Right.
And I love it. And I think people are starting to straighten up a little bit.
It is a faster route to see negative go.
So sometimes shame isn't a bad thing.
Well, this story happened right next door, really, you know, to where we're living at. This is in Lansing, which is our neighbor city.
Yep.
And so it's really close to home.
It is very close to home. 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Boop, we're there.
It really is sad that this young girl lost her life because she was a dumb teenager hanging around with the wrong people and chasing after the wrong dudes.
Takeaways from today's show is sit on it. Don't let revenge get the best of you because it's not a good thing. Figure it out. And maybe sometimes just let it go. We're going to wrap it up. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back for Round Robin. We hope you have a great rest of your week. And we will see you back on next Malice Monday. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
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 Adios.